Hello, everybody. A very good evening to one and all present here. Welcome back to our Not All Talk series at Pran Wellness. Do you know the Alzheimer's Association for India reports that more than 11 million Indians have some form of dementia? Worldwide, at least 44 million people are living with dementia, making the disease a global health crisis that must be addressed. Let alone speak about it, most of us might not even be aware of this condition and what it entails. Sadly, so, most individuals living with dementia go undiagnosed because of the lack of awareness and the stigma associated with developing a condition and seeking help. Today, we want to break free of this attitude and go ahead and learn. And in this journey, we are joined by our expert, Ms. Amulya Rajan. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce her. Welcome on board, Amulya.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Amulya's journey in dementia care began at a very personal level when she, along with her mother, cared for her grandfather with dementia for over 10 years. Today, Amulya Rajan is a dementia psychologist and consultant at Kshetra Assisted Living and Dementia Care Facility in Hyderabad. As a dementia care specialist, her work involves carrying out cognitive assessments and care interventions for persons with dementia, counseling for their family members, training of bedside attendants and staff, and acting as a license between neurologists and the person with dementia. Amulya also has co-authored several research publications in the field of dementia and continues to be actively involved in dementia research. Thank you, Amulya, for taking out time and being here with us on this webinar.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So without any further ado, let's start off with the webinar and with the questions that we have for you today. So
Certainly.
the first thing that we would like to know about is could you please explain what is dementia and what are the different types of dementia that we have?
Yeah, dementia is an umbrella term which actually most people confuse with just being Alzheimer's, but it's actually an umbrella term, and it is a neurological condition which is caused by atrophy in different parts of the brain. So depending on the part of the brain that atrophy is caused in, usually a neurologist will make a diagnosis of dementia. So an MRI is usually a diagnostic tool that is used. There are different kinds of dementias. In fact, there are many types. But some of the more prominent ones that we see usually are, one is, the most common is Alzheimer's disease dementia, which is marked with forgetfulness, memory loss, and some amount of disorientation to time and place. So this is something that is so common that people often confuse the term itself of dementia with Alzheimer's, when actually it is only one kind of dementia. There are other varieties. The other one more which is very common is called vascular dementia, which is something that comes on after having a brain stroke. So many people don't realize this, but after a person has had a brain stroke and let's say they have had paralysis or they have had some speech impairment, after a period of time it's also possible for them to have issues with their cognition. So cognition is a broad term to basically define the different kinds of activities that our brain does, like the attention that we pay to something, the way we perceive things, the way we manage to organize our work, which is called executive functioning. So all of this comes under cognition, and in vascular dementia, just like other kinds of dementias, slowly this may be affected after a stroke. Then there is another very interesting kind of dementia, which is something that is very peculiar and very different from the rest, called frontotemporal dementia, which is something that affects a smaller population, but because of its peculiarity, it's usually one of the first ones to get noticed. So frontotemporal dementia has different variants again. So it could come up as symptoms in behavior. So there's a personality change. The person starts to behave erratically. They have some amount of disinhibition. That is, they may be, taking off their clothes, using abusive language. So often people confuse it for a psychiatric disorder. But frontotemporal dementias are also other kinds. There's a speech variant where the person has difficulty in speaking and slowly there's loss of speech, and also issues with semantics. These are two kinds of language variants. Then there is a motor variant of frontotemporal dementia, which actually affects the physical body a lot more than it does cognition. So this is again often confused with Parkinson's disease, which is another neurological condition, right? So the main thing to understand about dementia is that, or rather, these are called as progressive dementias because they are not reversible. They are irreversible kinds of dementias, and these can go on once the onset is there. They go on until the person dies. It could be either due to dementia or due to some other ailment, but it progresses until that point. And currently, there is no cure for dementia anywhere. No, researchers are still trying to understand why this happens. It's a very complex kind of a, and so there is no cure. This is an overview of yeah.
Yeah, so I do understand that there's a lot of technicalities, and there's a lot of physical as well as cognitive that is there in dementia. I think you've put it out very simply that there are these kinds of dementia. Thank you so much. So yes, we do talk about
I just like to add that there are other kinds as well. There are several, like I said, there's Lewy body dementia, there's dementia that's caused due to alcoholism, there are Huntington's disease. So these are all different kinds of dementias, and it would take a very long time for us to go over them all, but I've tried to basically tell you about the ones that are seen most commonly.
Yes. So yes, as we know that people are very I would say less aware about dementia, or what they say is called the forgetfulness. So so how do you think that this affects the mental health?
So mental health actually comes up as one of the symptoms in dementia. So there are neuropsychiatric symptoms which come up in dementia. So very often somebody with dementia can manifest something like depression, or they can manifest something like hallucinations and delusions. They can manifest a lot of irritability. They can manifest difficulties in loss in sleep and in appetite. It could be either too much appetite or too little, or similarly too much sleep or too little. So all of these neuropsychiatric symptoms show up like mental health issues in people with dementia, when technically they are not the same thing as a psychological disorder, because it is manifested due to the neurological condition. But yeah, these are the most common. And while all of these are usually treated pharmacologically by doctors, and also a lot of behavioral interventions which are needed to treat these different kinds of neuropsychiatric conditions.
So as you mentioned that yes, the treatment can be pharmacological, and also there's a lot of behavior management that is probably done in this. So as you are like a psychologist, can I say how can a psychologist assist in the treatment of a patient with dementia? Also, could you highlight some of the therapeutic interventions that have proven helpful in the time being?
Right. So, a psychologist's role in this journey of dementia care is actually quite pivotal. Because when a person comes in, a family comes in with somebody with dementia, let's say they're taken to a doctor. It's usually either a psychiatrist or a neurologist. Then it is usually a psychologist who does the initial cognitive assessments. So these are assessments to determine which parts of thinking that a person is having problems with, which gives a broader kind of an idea of what kind of dementia they may be having, and if it is dementia at all.
Yeah.
So that is the first step. Apart from that, like I've outlined in my role itself at Kshetra, one of the very important parts is the counseling of the family caregivers, because dementia is one kind of a condition where the family and the caregivers actually undergo a lot of stress and burden through the dementia. So they need a lot of hand-holding, they need a lot of counseling, they need a lot of understanding of what kind of behavioral interventions will help. Let's say a person is not able to sleep, then apart from just loading them with medicines, a psychologist can actually help with training or teaching the family in ways to help the person with dementia sleep better. And then apart from this, somebody like me, if we are in a facility, a dementia care facility, then a lot of training of the staff and the bedside attendants becomes a pivotal role of the psychologist.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned that, in the treatment of dementia that the pharmacist and also the psychologist go hand in hand. Could you tell us more, how can a psychologist assist in the treatment of a patient with dementia? And also, can you highlight a few therapeutic interventions that you have proven helpful?
Yeah, so well, a psychologist's role in the dementia journey is something very pivotal, because right from assessing the person with dementia when they come in for what kind of cognitive deficits, that is issues with memory, thinking, attention, perception, whatever problems there may be, the initial assessments are usually conducted by psychologists. And going forward, the psychologist plays a very important role in counseling the family, because usually you find that caregivers of people with dementia go under a lot of stress and a lot of burden through the dementia journey, which typically lasts many years. So people like me usually do a lot of hand holding through different kinds of issues they may be facing on a day-to-day basis with their loved one. And this is a very important role of a psychologist. And apart from this, of course, there is the training, which is important, training and spreading of awareness. So in places like dementia facilities, or even in home care services, a psychologist can come in to help in training these bedside attendants in how to deal with dementia. What are the different kinds of issues they can face on a day-to-day basis? How do they deal with those with different behavioral interventions? So dementia is one condition where medicines don't play the whole role. Medicines are given for certain symptoms which can be handled with medicines, but a lot of work which goes into taking care of this person with dementia is done actually by the psychologist in a non-pharmacological way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's great. And you mentioned also about that family actually plays a major role in
Yes.
the I will not call it a treatment, but the intervention for
rehabilitation, we call it. Yeah.
Rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Could you also throw more light about what role the family and the community plays in providing care to these patients with dementia?
Yeah. So actually, before I do that, I think you had asked me a question about the therapies, which I kind of missed. Yeah. So the different therapies that are used in dementia, one of the most important and primary ones that is used world over is called cognitive stimulation therapy. Mm-hmm. So as you know, dementia is a condition which does not have a cure. So all that can be done is it can be managed, and its progression can be slowed down. So let's say a person is diagnosed with dementia in the year 2021. And, if we don't do anything, it is possible that within the next few years, the person's condition may really deteriorate. But if we try to do something like cognitive stimulation, or there are other kinds of therapies like reminiscence therapy, there is music therapy, there is doll therapy, there are many kinds. If we try to use these interventions, there is a possibility of slowing down the progression of the condition, which means you will have the person with you for a longer period of time. And also importantly, it reduces issues that the person may be facing. Like, it's amazing, but actually doing these kinds of therapies ensures that the person with dementia has a better quality of life. Their aggression is reduced, irritability is reduced, they sleep better, eat better. So these are the most important kinds of therapies that are usually done.
Yeah. Thank you for coming back to that. So so coming back to the role of the family and the community in providing care for them.
So, well, I don't know where to start, because I think the family at least is the most important part of dementia care. They are the ones who first notice it. Dementia is very, very rarely something that an individual will come by themselves to a doctor to. It will usually be the family, some family member who has noticed, observed some changes in the person. Either it could be forgetfulness, it could be a change in behavior, difficulty in speech. It could be losing their way on a very well-known route. It could be forgetting very familiar people's names or names of objects. These are the common symptoms. So when the family notices this, they take the step. So it is the family's responsibility, and it becomes their prerogative to bring this person to the doctor. And going forward from there, the entire care of the person with dementia is handled by the family. So literally, like, there's a saying for a child, they say there's a saying that it takes a village to bring up a child. Similarly, I would say it takes a village to take care of somebody with dementia, and which is where the community comes in, because it is just not possible for one caregiver. Typically it is one, unfortunately, like it will be a spouse, or it will be one of the children, most often women, so most often daughters, or it could be, of course, a husband or a brother or a son also. It is usually one primary caregiver who's taking care of this person with dementia. And when families come to us in this state, we say, no, you need to get all the support that you can. So something as simple as, some of your close family friends or some of your close relatives who can pitch in, who can come and just give them a break for even 1 hour in a week, who can come and take over some responsibility of something with this person with dementia. So like I was talking about cognitive stimulation therapy earlier. So this essentially means doing different kinds of stimulating activities with this person. Like it could be reading a book, it could be going for a walk, it could be doing puzzles, it could be just singing, chanting. So even if one relative or one neighbor or one close family friend comes in once a week or twice a week and is able to engage this person for 1 hour or 2 hours, that means they have contributed to the dementia care. So in this way, our community needs to become more sensitized to these issues that people with dementia face, and we need to really support them better in taking care of them.
Yeah. I think, what you told me, this brings back me some of the memories, that I had probably with my grandfather, where I was not aware because, I think it was around 11, 12 years back. We were not aware that, he was going through this stage, this something called dementia that, actually exists, and he was going through it. And so, probably, this brings back memories about, how we were there and, how we needed more people to actually take care of,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think every single family needs more people, and it's always more and more,
Yeah.
Unless there are 3 or 4 people who are managing this person, it's not enough.
Yeah. And I also do understand that, the more people that are around them, they are also more reactive, and, they're also more very active about, certain things.
Absolutely, which brings us to another kind of a therapy again, which is called as social stimulation. So stimulation can be cognitive, which is what I spoke about earlier, but social stimulation and physical stimulation is also very important. So continuing to go on walks, continuing to exercise, continuing to interact with other people. And like you rightly said, when the community comes in, when other people come in, there is more interaction. It may be that this person is deteriorating. They may be only able to say a few phrases again and again and again, but the people who are interacting with them, they can still build up the conversation, they can still engage with the story, and whatever, it may be the same story, but each time you can engage with it. And this kind of an interaction does wonders for somebody with dementia.
Yeah, I think, that's really good that, it brought back my memories with my grandfather, where, where we had a conversation, like this. Which brings us to the next question, what routine or, activities should patients of dementia participate for them to engage in healthy living? You mentioned that, probably they have to go for walks. So, if you could just like was about it.
Yeah. So routine is actually one of the most important things for people with dementia. Any kind of routine, but if it is followed regularly, then it is something that will really help them, because it causes lesser confusion, it causes lesser problems for them in orienting themselves to places and people and even things that they are doing. So essentially, a routine should comprise of these 3 kinds of activities, like I said. So it should be cognitive, that is mental activities, there should be physical activity, and there should be social activity. So let's say at least like in the morning, after they've woken up and after they're freshened up and all of that, if they're able to do an hour or 2 of these kind of activities, it could comprise of like a 15-minute walk, and if they're not able to go out, then just walking in the house, or even just some simple seated exercises, just sitting down and doing some exercises, which obviously somebody has to aid them with. You cannot leave them to it by themselves. And then after that, going on for some mental activities, like maybe reading a book, depending on what they used to like before. We can't, pressurize them to suddenly start a new hobby or start to like a new activity. So let's say the person has had a history of enjoying maybe caroms, for example. Then caroms could be something that is done every day with them, or they enjoyed gardening, or they enjoyed listening to bhajans, or they enjoyed, just reading. Any of these things could be done for a brief period of time.
As you mentioned,
It's very important, of course, that they are also engaged socially, social stimulation. So very often what happens with people and families of dementia is that they get totally isolated because they're not able to meet other people normally like previously. Other people don't understand what's going on with this person with dementia. Other people are not able to engage with them in conversations. This person keeps repeating the same thing again and again, so they're not able to hold a normal conversation. So a lot of times old friends fall away, but and this can end up in really isolating the family and the person. So this is a very, very bad thing for them overall. So it social stimulation can be in the form of, like I said, just a neighbor, a close friend, or a relative, or even taking them every day to a temple. And then, at the temple, they talk with 2 or 3 people. It does not have to be a long conversation. It can just be something very, very short, and something that keeps them engaged. That's all. So these are essentially the 3 things that could help. Definitely reducing daytime sleep is something that helps, because people with dementia tend to sleep a lot during the day. So their routine should not have too much of sleep hours. Typically, maybe just an hour after lunch, because they are the elderly, so they may need some rest. So an hour after lunch. And evening, again, follow the same pattern. Again, some walking, again, some mental exercises, again, some kind of cognitive, social stimulation. And ensure that their timings are kind of constant. If it's not, the same, at least more or less, we are not shifting things around too much for them every day. And this is something that really helps people with dementia.
I think you've put that out that they need to have like a routine that they enjoy, they look forward to, and I think it's very important that people who have taken care of us since the beginning, it's time for us to take care of them. So that's one thing that actually rings in when we talk about the geriatrics or the elderly population.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
one thing I'd like to add again, because you said it's important for them to enjoy it. It's quite often people with dementia will not enjoy doing anything. They just want to go sleep. But when this is done consistently over a period of time, so it's actually a lot of effort for the caregiver, maybe a family caregiver or a professional caregiver. But when they're able to put in that effort and do it consistently every day, get them out of bed, get them into that space where they're doing all these things consistently, then after a while, this person with dementia also starts to react to that, and they start to get attuned to that. But it takes them a lot longer than it would take you or me to just fall into a routine, basically.
Yeah. So that's very well put. And you said that you've been working with dementia patients since a long time. So would you like to share some of the experiences that you had?
Oh, well, there are obviously a lot. So my first experience started as a caregiver myself, just like you. So my grandfather had dementia, and it was a very long kind of a tenure that he had it for. It was for almost 10 years. And my mother was primarily taking care of him, and I would help her with it. But my first experience of dementia was that it was very firsthand. It was very, literally all of these issues that I have been talking about in caregivers, I have faced it myself. I've seen my mother going through it, and the kind of frustration and stress it has put her through, with no fault of his, of course, but that's how the condition is. Yeah. And in a way, that was an impetus for me to get into this field, and it makes it a lot easier for me to empathize with other families. So one of the, I think, most enjoyable experiences that I've had with people with dementia is that they keep bringing you back to the present. There is, because for them, if memory has deteriorated, then there is no, the past is kind of hazy. And future, of course, they can't plan and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So it's almost always, what are we doing at this moment, in enjoying this moment, in making it more worthy for them as well as for us. Apart from that, I think one of the biggest things it has taught me is in just being tolerant, in being more patient, because week after week in my therapy sessions, we do the same activities. Because for my person with dementia, it's not the same. I know it's the same, but for them, it's a new experience each time. Each time we sing a song together, they're like, oh, wow, I've not sung this song for years. Or each time we read a book together, for them, it's completely new. So so I have to be very patient, obviously. But then if we are able to look at it like enjoying it each time, like each time you see a flower, if you're able to enjoy it and actually experience its beauty, then it becomes a lot easier for us as professionals to work with them. And well, apart from that, I think some of the most touching experiences for me have been with caregivers and what they go through in caring for their people with dementia. I've seen some of the most dedicated spouses, both men and women, husbands who have, held their wives' hand through everything for years and years and caring for them diligently, making sure they're dressed beautifully when they come to a dementia daycare center, making sure that everything is the way that she would have liked, and we're talking to them in this with the same love and affection that they had always, even if the person has slowly started to forget who they are. So this is one of this unconditional love that I see in caregivers is something that is really, really touching, because the person with dementia forgets slowly. But the caregiver does not forget. They remember every single thing. And for them to carry that and go through that journey with a smile is really something that teaches you a lot. So, yeah.
I think, you've told it very beautifully that, it's actually very heart touching that,
Yeah.
you said that, the unconditional love and, definitely, patience and, everything. Because as I said, I was like too young to even understand, what was happening. And, there were a lot of people taking care and the person doesn't know what's happening. But, you are there, trying to, tell them your name that, this is my name, repeat my name. I
Yeah.
do understand that, it takes a lot of effort for the caregivers,
Yeah.
but it's a day-to-day process, or it's a day-to-day activity for the person with dementia.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, thank you so much, Amulya, for, taking out your time and, being
Not
here.
at all. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, because one of the things we really need is more awareness, more people talking about it, more people understanding it. And that itself, like I said, is going to be a huge helpful thing for families with dementia.
Very true, very true, because, often people just say that, they're just forgetting because of their age. So they
Yeah.
are aging, they're forgetting. So, that's like the common thing that, I think most of us, we hear whenever, there's an elderly person at home. But I
Yeah.
think there's more of awareness that has to come in with this. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for, creating this space for us and,
My
doing
pleasure.
such a great job.
My
And thank you everybody for being here with us on our Not All Talk series at Prawn Wellness. Thank you and see you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.